This video we're going to focus on the difference between cytotoxic T cells and natural killer cells. All right? At a very basic level, cytotoxic T cells are part of cell-mediated immunity, meaning there is specificity for an antigen. All right? Our natural killer cells, all right? In a previous video, I told you the natural killer cell arises from the lymphoid lineage, all right? But the natural killer cell is not actually part of cell-mediated immunity. So in terms of this, we're going to kind of jump back a little bit. And in terms of that natural killer cell, it's classified as part of the innate immune response because we now no longer have antigen specificity that triggers this, all right? The natural killer cells are going to respond to cells within the body. Typically, we're talking eukaryotic cells here, all right? With the natural killer cells, it's going to target virus-infected cells. And in terms of the natural killer cells, this is going to be the first cell to respond to abnormal growth. And what does that abnormal growth mean? Typically what it means is cancer. Okay, so the natural killer cells are going to be the first ones on board to target cells that are growing out of control. All right, and in terms of this, the interaction between the natural killer cell and the infected cell is a non-specific interaction. All right, whereas the cytotoxic T cell is going to have that specific interaction between antigen, the CD8, and the T cell receptor, okay, that's going to trigger it to release the granzymes and the perforins, all right? Now this is where this gets a little interesting because in terms of the cytotoxic T cells, right, these kill the cell directly by essentially injecting perforins and granzymes into the infected cell. All right? Natural killer cells, guess what? We got the same molecules. They're going to kill by injecting those perforins and granzymes. All right? And in terms of that, essentially what you're going to get is a targeted cell death by apoptosis on both accounts. All right? And in terms of cytotoxic T cells are also going to target virally infected cells. It's going to target cancer cells. And one of the things that's going to be key here, all right, the cytotoxic T cells are going to be the ones that are involved in typically tissue rejection. Okay? Because when you transplant a tissue or an organ from another person or from an animal into a human, it's going to be the cytotoxic T cell that's going to realize, hey, that MHC1 on the outside of that cell, that's not the right one. I need to get rid of this cell. So in terms of that, the immune system will target that transplanted tissue because it's not recognized as self. It's recognized as foreign, okay? And in terms of that, that's one thing the cytotoxic T cell will recognize that the natural killer cells won't. Natural killer cells are primarily going to target virally infected cells and cancer. Cytotoxic T cells will also target virally infected cells and cancer cells, but now these are the ones that are also involved in tissue rejection. So if you have other human tissue that's implanted or animal tissue, it's going to be the cytotoxic T cell that's going to take that particular cell out. All right? That's why folks who undergo organ transplants will undergo matching for those MHC1s or those HLAs on the outside of the cell, because the closer that match is, the less likely this is to happen. All right? And in terms of that, typically people who have tissue transplants or organ transplants are also put on immunosuppressive drugs. Immunosuppressive drugs suppress the immune system. Specifically, they're going to suppress that cell-mediated response so that if the person has a kidney transplant or a liver transplant, their body won't reject that foreign material. Okay? Hopefully that made sense. If you have any questions, please let me know.